A billionaire CEO just lost everything: his company, his family, his reputation, all for a waitress he met 3 months ago. But what he doesn't know is that the woman he loves is about to discover a secret that connects them in a way he never imagined. This is the story of how one broken man and one struggling woman survived betrayal, conspiracy, and a plot that almost destroyed them both. Keith Grant had given up on love after 6 failed relationships and 3 broken engagements. He built walls around his heart that no one could break. Until one rainy night when his car broke down in the wrong part of town. That's when he met Enola Rose, a waitress working double shifts to pay for her grandmother's medication, who saw him not as a billionaire, but just as a man who looked tired and lost. What started as a chance encounter became the greatest love story of his life. But lurking in the shadows was his jealous ex-fiancée, Victoria, who would stop at nothing to destroy them, and she wasn't working alone. This is a story about betrayal from those closest to you, about choosing love when the whole world tells you not to, and about discovering that sometimes fate has been connecting you all along. This is The CEO's Unexpected Love. Keith Grant had everything money could buy. At 32, he ran Grant Industries with an iron fist and a guarded heart. 6 relationships, 3 broken engagements. Each one had taught him the same cruel lesson. People only wanted his wealth, never him. So he'd made a decision. No more love, no more heartbreak. Just work, success, and solitude. But fate had other plans. It was a Thursday evening when Keith's car broke down in the modest neighborhood of Riverside. His driver had the night off, and his phone was dead. Frustrated and hungry, he spotted a small diner called Rosie's, its neon sign flickering in the rain. Inside, the place was nearly empty. Keith slid into a corner booth, his expensive suit drawing curious glances. Then she appeared. Enola Rose moved between tables with practice efficiency, her warm smile genuine despite the exhaustion in her eyes. She didn't recognize him, didn't know his name or his net worth. She just saw a customer who looked tired and wet. "Rough night?" she asked, placing a menu in front of him. Keith looked up, and for the first time in years, his carefully constructed walls trembled. Her eyes held something he'd almost forgotten existed: kindness without agenda. "You could say that," he replied. What Keith didn't know was that Enola had worked a double shift at the diner after her morning job at the grocery store. Her grandmother's medication was expensive, and the bills never stopped coming. But she never let her struggles dim her light. They talked. For 2 hours, Keith sat in that worn vinyl booth and talked with a waitress who made him laugh, who challenged his cynical views, who saw the world with hope despite having every reason not to. When he finally left, he did something impulsive. He returned the next night, and the night after that. 3 months passed like a dream. Keith found himself living 2 lives, the ruthless CEO by day, and by night, just Keith, the man who waited for Enola's shift to end so they could walk through the city, sharing stories and stolen glances. He didn't tell her who he really was, not yet. For the first time, someone loved him for himself, not his bank account. But Enola was falling too, despite her grandmother's warnings about getting involved with someone whose life seemed too perfect, too mysterious. "He's hiding something, dear," her grandmother Rosa would say. "Rich men always are." The night Keith finally confessed, they were sitting on a bench overlooking the river. "Enola, there's something I need to tell you. My full name is Keith Grant. I own Grant Industries." The silence that followed felt eternal. "Why didn't you tell me?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Because for once, I wanted someone to know me, not my net worth." Enola stood, tears streaming down her face. "I need time to think." But time was a luxury they didn't have, because watching from the shadows was someone who refused to let Keith go. Victoria Sterling, Keith's 3rd failed engagement, beautiful, calculating, and obsessed with reclaiming what she believed was hers. When she discovered Keith's relationship with a mere waitress, she saw an opportunity. Victoria befriended Enola, posing as a customer at the diner. She gained her trust, learned her fears, and then struck. "I'm worried about you," Victoria said one afternoon, sliding into Enola's booth during her break. Keith Grant has a pattern. He loves the chase, the novelty. I should know. I was engaged to him. Enola's blood ran cold. You were engaged? Oh, he didn't tell you? There were 3 of us. He gets bored easily, moves on to the next shiny thing. I just don't want to see you get hurt like I did. The seeds of doubt were planted. But Victoria wasn't done. She fabricated photos, created fake messages, and even hired someone to approach Enola, claiming Keith had promised him her job at the diner would be eliminated once Keith bought the building. The final blow came when Victoria's accomplice staged a scene. Enola received a hospital bill addressed to her grandmother for experimental treatment, marked as paid in full by Keith Grant. Attached was a note. Consider this payment for services rendered. Enola was devastated. Had Keith been paying for her affection all along? When Keith came to see her that evening, she handed him back the simple necklace he'd given her, along with a check for the hospital bill. I don't need your charity or your pity. We're done. Go back to your world, Keith. I don't belong in it, and I won't be bought. Keith stared at the check, confused. Enola, I never paid this bill. I didn't even know your grandmother was sick. But Enola had already walked away. Heartbroken, Keith threw himself back into work. But something was wrong at Grant Industries. Money was disappearing. Small amounts at first, then larger sums. His CFO, Marcus Chen, brought him the evidence. Sir, someone's been embezzling funds. The trail leads to... I'm sorry, Keith. It leads to your brother. Keith felt the world tilt. James? That's impossible. But it wasn't impossible. James Grant, Keith's younger stepbrother, had been living in Keith's shadow his entire life. Jealous, bitter, and desperate to prove himself, James had been stealing from the company for 2 years. When confronted, James didn't deny it. You have everything, Keith. The company, father's respect, and now you throw it all away for some nobody waitress? You don't deserve any of it. The betrayal cut deeper than any failed relationship ever had. Keith had his own brother arrested, watching as police led James away in handcuffs, while their father stood frozen in shock. But there was more. James had been working with Victoria. He'd helped her fabricate the hospital bill, gave her inside information about Keith's whereabouts, and even suggested targeting Enola's grandmother as the weak point. Keith's world was crumbling, but his thoughts kept returning to Enola. He had to make her understand the truth. At the emergency Grant family meeting, Keith made his announcement. I'm in love with Enola Rose, and I intend to marry her. His mother, Eleanor Grant, set down her wineglass with a sharp click. After what James did, after this scandal, you want to bring more shame to this family by marrying a waitress? Keith, think about what you're saying. She's worth more than anyone I've ever met, Keith said firmly. His father, Richard Grant, leaned forward, his face aged 10 years in a single day. Son, we've lost one son to prison. We've lost millions in the embezzlement. Our reputation is hanging by a thread. The board is calling for your resignation. And now you want to marry someone who will make us look even weaker? Then I'll resign. I'll start my own company, but I won't lose her. His mother's voice turned cold. If you marry that girl, you'll lose your inheritance, your trust fund, everything. Your father and I have already discussed this. Keith stood, his decision made. Keep it. I don't need your money. I never did. His younger sister, Amanda, the only ally he had, whispered, Go get her, Keith. But as Keith left, his mother made a call to Victoria. The inheritance threat didn't work. We need to try something else. Make sure that girl understands she'll destroy Keith's life if she stays. Use whatever means necessary. Victoria's final play was brilliant in its cruelty. She invited Enola to a charity gala, claiming Keith wanted her there, but was too proud to ask after their fight. She even sent a dress and styling team. Enola, hoping for closure and a chance to apologize for doubting Keith, agreed. The moment she entered the grand ballroom, she knew she'd made a mistake. Every eye turned to her. Whispers erupted like wildfire. Then Victoria appeared on stage. Everyone, I'd like you to meet Keith Grant's new charity project. Isn't it wonderful how he's helping those less fortunate? Taking a waitress under his wing, giving her a taste of our world before he inevitably tires of her. The crowd laughed. Cameras flashed. Enola felt her knees weaken as humiliation washed over her. But then, a voice cut through the chaos. "That's enough." Keith stood at the entrance, fury in his eyes. He crossed the room in long strides, removing his jacket and draping it over Enola's shoulders. "You're right about one thing, Victoria. Enola is being introduced to my world tonight, as the woman I love, the woman I'm going to marry if she'll have me." He turned to the crowd. "And anyone who has a problem with that can leave now." Keith's father stepped forward. "Keith, don't be rash. You're already losing everything because of James. Don't throw away what's left." "No, father. I'm done being the dutiful son. I'm done sacrificing my happiness for appearances." He looked at Enola, vulnerability raw on his face. "I know I don't deserve you. I know I should have been honest from the start. But I'm being honest now. I love you. Not because of who I think you should be, but because of who you are." Before Enola could respond, the ballroom doors burst open. Amanda rushed in with 2 police detectives and a lawyer. "Stop everything! Keith, Enola, you both need to hear this." The detectives approached Victoria. "Victoria Sterling, you're under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy." Victoria's face went white. "What? This is absurd." The lawyer stepped forward. "We've been investigating the Grant Industries embezzlement. While James Grant was involved, he wasn't the mastermind. You were, Miss Sterling. You manipulated James, exploited his jealousy, and together you stole over $5 million. Keith stood frozen. "What?" Amanda continued, her voice shaking with anger. "I've been working with investigators for weeks. Victoria wasn't just trying to get you back, Keith. She wanted revenge for the broken engagement, and she wanted to destroy you financially. She planned to frame you for the embezzlement once she'd stolen enough. But there was more." The lawyer pulled out a document. "We also discovered that the hospital bill sent to Miss Rose was paid for with stolen Grant Industries funds. Victoria used company money to make it look like Keith was buying Enola's affection, creating a paper trail that would implicate both of them." Enola gasped. "So Keith I never paid that bill," Keith confirmed. "I didn't even know about it until you gave me that check." Victoria lunged at Enola, but the detectives restrained her. "You ruined everything. He was supposed to be mine. We were perfect together until he decided he wanted someone real. Well, I hope you're happy with your poor little waitress, Keith." As they dragged Victoria away, another twist emerged. Keith's mother stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "Keith, I need to confess something. I knew. About Victoria, about the embezzlement, about some of it. Not everything, but enough. She approached me months ago, said she could get you to focus on the company again if I helped her separate you from Enola. I was so focused on protecting our family name, I became blind to what really mattered. I'm so sorry." The ballroom erupted in chaos. Cameras flashed, guests whispered. Keith's entire world had just exploded. Keith stood there, processing everything. His ex-fiancée was a criminal. His brother was a thief. His mother had conspired against him. Everything he thought he knew was a lie. Enola watched him, her heart breaking. She stepped forward and took his hand. "Keith, look at me." He did, and she saw the same vulnerable man she'd met in that diner months ago. "I'm sorry I doubted you. I'm sorry I didn't trust what we had. But I'm here now, and I'm not." Keith pulled her close, not caring about the cameras or the crowd. "I've lost my brother, betrayed by my mother, and my company is in shambles. I have nothing left to offer you but a very complicated life and a lot of legal battles ahead." Enola smiled through her tears. "Good thing I'm used to fighting them." Keith's father approached, his expression softer than Keith had ever seen. "Son, I was wrong. About everything. Your mother and I let our pride blind us. This woman stood by you when you had nothing. That's the definition of real love. If you'll let me, I'd like to make this right." Keith's sister Amanda pulled out her phone. "Also, Keith, you need to see this. While everyone was distracted by Victoria's arrest, I did some digging into Enola's background." Enola tensed. "What about my background?" Amanda's eyes were kind. "Your father, Michael Rose, worked for Doctors Without Borders. He and your mother died in that gas attack when you were 4. What you don't know is that they were working on a project funded by Grant Industries. Your parents saved over 300 lives before they died. My father knew them. He's been sending anonymous donations to your grandmother for years to honor their sacrifice." Enola stumbled backward. "What?" Richard Grant nodded, tears in his eyes. "Your parents were heroes. I promised them that if anything happened to them, I'd watch over you. But I did it from a distance, through anonymous trusts.
I never imagined my son would fall in love with you. It's like fate brought you back to us." Keith looked at his father in shock. "You've been helping Enola all along?" "Not enough. Not nearly enough. But I'd like to change that, if you'll both let me."
The ballroom had cleared. Only family remained. Keith turned to Enola, taking both her hands. Enola rose. "I've learned something these past few months. Real love isn't about perfection. It's about choosing each other, even when everything falls apart, especially then." He dropped to one knee, pulling out a simple ring. Nothing like the ostentatious diamonds he'd given to previous fiancés. 6 months later, the headlines told a different story. Grant Industries rebounds under new leadership. Keith Grant launches foundation for humanitarian workers. Victoria Sterling sentenced to 10 years for fraud. The wedding was small, intimate. Everything Victoria's planned spectacles had never been. Enola's grandmother walked her down the aisle, tears streaming down her face. Keith's sister served as maid of honor. His parents sat in the front row, his mother holding his father's hand as they watched their son marry the woman who'd saved him. James sent a letter from prison, apologizing for everything. Keith read it and cried, then wrote back. Forgiveness would take time, but it would come. Keith established a foundation in honor of Enola's parents, supporting humanitarian workers worldwide and providing scholarships for their children. Enola finished her degree and became the foundation's director, her passion and compassion touching thousands of lives. Rosie's Diner? Keith bought it, but not to tear it down. He renovated it and turned it into a training center where formerly incarcerated individuals could learn job skills and rebuild their lives. James would have a job there when he was released. 3 years later, Keith and Enola stood in the hospital, holding their newborn daughter. Rosa Grace Grant, named after Enola's grandmother, slept peacefully in her mother's arms. Keith's parents entered the room, their faces glowing with joy. Eleanor had been attending therapy and had apologized countless times to Enola. They would never be perfect, but they were trying, and that was enough. "She's beautiful," Eleanor whispered, touching her granddaughter's tiny hand. "Just like her mother." That evening, as Keith and Enola sat together watching the sunset through the hospital window, he kissed her forehead. "Do you ever regret it? Everything you went through to be with me?" Enola looked at him, the same warm smile he'd fallen for that rainy Thursday night lighting up her face. "Every betrayal, every twist, every moment of doubt led us here, to this perfect moment. So no, I don't regret a single thing. Because in the end, love won." Keith pulled her close, their daughter sleeping between them. "Best car breakdown of my life. Best double shift of mine." And in that moment, surrounded by love hard-won and freely given, they knew that sometimes the greatest wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in the courage to trust your heart one more time, even when the whole world tells you not to. Because true love isn't found in perfection. It's forged in the fires of betrayal, tested by doubt, and proven by choice. And theirs had survived it all. The end.